The wind howled through the mountains as Day One stared at his laptop screen. He had been at his grandfather's old cabin for 3 days now, trying to finish the software project that would either save his career or end it. The city felt like 1,000,000 miles away, which was exactly what he needed. No distractions, no noise, just him and his code. He stretched his arms above his head and glanced at the clock. Almost midnight. The cabin was quiet except for the crackling of the fire and the occasional groan of old wood settling. Day One stood up to make another cup of coffee when he heard it. A sound from outside. Not the wind. Something else. His military training kicked in immediately. He moved to the window and peered out into the darkness. Nothing moved in the snow-covered yard. Then he heard it again. A metallic scraping sound coming from the storage shed behind the cabin. Day One grabbed his grandfather's hunting rifle from above the fireplace. He checked it quickly and moved toward the back door. His heart pounded, but his hands remained steady. 5 years in the military engineering corps had taught him to stay calm under pressure. The cold hit him like a wall when he stepped outside. Snow crunched under his boots as he approached the shed. The door was slightly open, which was wrong. He had locked it yesterday. He raised the rifle and pushed the door open with his foot. The shed was dark, except for a faint blue glow coming from the corner. Day One fumbled for the light switch and flipped it on. What he saw made him freeze. A woman lay collapsed among the stacks of firewood. But she was not human. Her skin had a silvery blue tone that seemed to shimmer even in the harsh electric light. Her eyes, barely open, were larger than a human's and had vertical pupils like a cat. Strange markings ran along her arms, glowing faintly with their own light. She was badly hurt. Dark purple blood soaked through her strange silver clothing. Burns covered her torso, unlike anything Day One had seen before. They looked like they came from intense heat or energy. The woman's eyes focused on him. She said something in a language he had never heard. Her voice was weak and desperate. Then her eyes rolled back and she went limp. Day One stood there for a full minute, his brain trying to process what he was seeing. This was impossible. This could not be real. But the woman was breathing, barely. Her chest rose and fell in shallow movements. His training took over again. Injured person. Need to help. The fact that she was not human could be dealt with later. He slung the rifle over his shoulder and carefully lifted her. She was surprisingly light, despite being nearly his height. He carried her back to the cabin and laid her on the couch near the fire. For the next hour, Day One worked on her wounds with his first aid kit. The purple blood was strange, and her body temperature was lower than a human's, but the basics were the same. Stop the bleeding. Clean the wounds. Bandage them carefully. His hands moved automatically while his mind raced out an alien. A real alien. In his grandfather's cabin. The burns on her body looked like they came from some kind of weapon. She had been shot. Someone had tried to kill her. As he worked, he noticed a device on her wrist. It looked like a watch, but made of materials he did not recognize. It was damaged, but still glowing softly with blue light. He decided not to touch it. When he finished treating her wounds, she was still unconscious. Her breathing had steadied, though. That was good. Day One covered her with blankets and sat back in his chair, rifle across his lap. He should call someone. The police. The military. Someone in the government must deal with situations like this. But something stopped him. The fear in her eyes when she looked at him. The desperate way she had tried to speak before passing out. She had not attacked him. She had just been hurt and hiding. Day One opened his laptop and started typing. He documented everything. The time he found her. Her appearance. Her injuries. He took photos carefully, making sure to capture the details. If this was first contact with aliens, someone would need this information now. Then he grabbed his flashlight and went back outside. The snow around the shed was disturbed. He followed the trail and found something that made his stomach drop. About 100 meters into the forest, there was a circular burn pattern in the snow. The trees around it were scorched. Small pieces of metal and strange materials were scattered everywhere. A crash site. She had crashed here. But where was the ship? Day one searched the area and found a few larger pieces of debris. They were made of materials he could not identify. Lightweight but incredibly strong. Still warm to the touch despite the freezing temperature, he gathered what he could carry and brought it back to the cabin. As he walked, he noticed something else. There were other tracks in the snow. Not human. Too large and the wrong shape. Someone or something else had been here looking around. Back inside, Day One locked all the doors and windows. He put more wood on the fire and sat down to think. The alien woman was still unconscious on his couch. Her glowing markings pulsed slowly in rhythm with her breathing. The smart thing would be to call for help. But if other aliens were out there looking for her, drawing attention to this location might get them both killed. And if she had crashed while running from someone, maybe she had a good reason to hide. Day One made a decision. He would wait. When she woke up, he would try to understand what was happening. Then he could figure out what to do next. Until then, he would keep watch and keep her safe. He pulled his chair closer to the couch and kept the rifle ready. Outside, the wind continued to howl through the mountains. Somewhere in the darkness, pieces of an alien ship lay scattered in the snow. And in his grandfather's cabin, a software developer from Seoul found himself at the center of something much bigger than he could imagine. The woman stirred slightly in her sleep. The device on her wrist flickered. Day One watched and waited for dawn, knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. That morning came slowly. Day One had not slept. He sat in his chair, watching the alien woman breathe. When the first light came through the windows, her eyes opened. She looked around the cabin quickly, then focused on him. Her hand moved to the device on her wrist. Day One raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. He pointed to her bandages and then to himself, trying to communicate that he had helped her. She watched him carefully, her strange eyes studying every movement. She touched the device on her wrist and winced. It was damaged. She spoke again in her alien language, then seemed frustrated when he could not understand. She pointed at the device and made a gesture like she was trying to fix something. Day One understood. She needed to repair it. He stood up slowly and went to his workbench where he kept his tools. He brought them over and set them down carefully on the coffee table. Her eyes widened slightly. She reached for a small screwdriver and went to work on the device. It took her almost an hour. Day One watched as she carefully opened the device and worked on the inside with tools that seemed too large for such delicate work. But she managed. When she pressed a button on the side, the device glowed brighter and made a soft humming sound. She looked at him and spoke again. This time, her words came out in two versions. Her alien language first, then a second later in Korean. The device was translating. "Thank you for helping me," she said. Her voice through the translator sounded oddly flat but clear. "I am Yuna. That is not my real name, but it is close enough in your language." Day One felt his heart race. "I am Day One. What are you? Where did you come from?" Yuna sat up slowly, careful of her injuries. "I come from a world very far from here. I am part of the Confederation of Free Worlds. We are an alliance of many species who believe in freedom and cooperation. You crashed near my cabin," Day One said. "Why are you here? Why Earth?" Yuna looked directly at him. "My being here was not an accident. I came to your planet deliberately. I was tracking a threat, and my ship was shot down. A1 felt cold despite the fire. What kind of threat? Your world has been watched for many years, Una said carefully. By my people and by others. Earth is special. Humans are special. Special how? Una touched her wrist device, and a hologram appeared in the air above it. It showed star systems and ships moving between them. The galaxy is full of life. Hundreds of species. Most follow certain patterns. They develop technology in predictable ways. They think in predictable ways. But humans are different. Day one leaned forward. Different how? You adapt, Una said. Faster than any species we have ever seen. You create solutions from nothing. You refuse to give up even when logic says you should. We call it the human factor. It makes you both fascinating and dangerous. Dangerous to who? To those who fear change. To those who want control. The hologram shifted to show a different group of ships. These looked aggressive, built for war. The Dominion is an empire that conquers other species. They see humanity as a threat. You are close to developing faster-than-light travel. Once you do, you will spread across the stars. The Dominion wants to stop you before that happens. Day one felt his blood run cold. They want to attack Earth? Yes. I was tracking their fleet movements when they detected me. They shot down my ship. I crashed here because I scanned this area and found you. A former military engineer living alone. Someone with the skills to help me. Help you do what? Una's expression became intense. My ship's data core survived the crash. It contains all the intelligence. I gathered about the Dominion's attack plan. Their fleet positions. Their timing. Everything the Confederation needs to stop them. But the core is scattered across these mountains with the rest of my ship. I need to recover it and transmit the data to my people. They are waiting at the edge of your solar system. Day one stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the mountains looked peaceful under their blanket of snow. Why not just contact Earth's governments? Let them handle this. Because the Dominion has surveillance everywhere around your planet, Una said. If we reveal ourselves now, they will attack immediately. Millions of your people would die before the Confederation could respond. We need to transmit my data first, so my fleet can strike the Dominion forces quickly and cleanly. And if we fail, then the Dominion will eliminate me and destroy any evidence I was here. Then they will proceed with their plan to attack Earth. Your planet does not have the weapons to stop them. Day one turned back to face her. You chose me specifically? I scanned hundreds of humans in this region. You have military training, engineering skills. You live alone, so there would be no complications. And your psychological profile suggested you would help rather than panic. She paused. Was I wrong? Day one thought about his options. He could throw her out and call the authorities. But if what she said was true, that would doom Earth. He could try to handle this alone. But he had no idea what he was dealing with. Or he could help her and hope she was telling the truth. He looked at her injuries. She was hurt and vulnerable. If she wanted to harm him, she had already had chances. And something in her eyes seemed honest. Desperate but honest. Show me proof, he said finally. Show me that the Dominion is really out there. Una nodded. She touched her device again, and the hologram changed. It showed Earth from space. But the image was not peaceful. Day one could see satellites that looked wrong. Too many of them in strange positions. Military satellites, but not human ones. These are Dominion observation platforms, Una said. They have been watching your planet for 3 years. Studying your defenses. Planning their attack. Day one felt anger rise in his chest. Something alien was watching his world. Planning to hurt his people. And nobody knew. How long do we have? He asked. Days, maybe a week. Once I fail to report in, the Dominion will assume their plan is compromised. They will move quickly. Day one made his decision. He went to his closet and pulled out his old military gear, his cold weather clothing, his survival equipment. He checked everything methodically. Then we need to move fast, he said. Can you track the pieces of your ship? Yuna stood up carefully. Yes, the data core will send out a signal I can detect. But the Dominion will be looking for me. They will have troops on the ground searching. Good thing I know these mountains, Daewon said. And good thing I know how to hide. He looked at her seriously. If you are lying to me, if this is some kind of trick, I will stop you myself. I am not lying, Yuna said quietly. I volunteered for this mission because I believe humanity deserves to survive, to join the rest of the galaxy as equals. I will not let the Dominion take that away from you. Daewon nodded. Then let us go find your data and save my planet. He gathered supplies while Yuna prepared what was left of her equipment. Outside, the sun climbed higher over the mountains. Somewhere out there, pieces of alien technology waited in the snow. And somewhere else, alien soldiers were hunting for the woman now standing in his cabin. Daewon checked his rifle one more time and shouldered his pack. Whatever happened next, he was committed now. He was going to help an alien save Earth. The thought was insane. But looking at Yuna, seeing the determination in her strange eyes, he knew it was also the right thing to do. The mountain air was sharp and cold as Daewon led Yuna through the forest. She moved well despite her injuries, but he could see her favoring her left side. The translator device on her wrist beeped softly every few minutes as it tracked the scattered pieces of her ship. The largest piece should be northeast, Yuna said, checking the device. About 2 kilometers from here. Daewon nodded and adjusted their course. He used paths that stayed under tree cover and avoided open areas. Years of military training had taught him how to move without being seen. Tell me about these Dominion soldiers. What should I expect? They are from a warrior species called the Kelter, physically stronger than humans. Their skin is like armor. They have better eyesight and hearing, and they carry energy weapons that can burn through most materials. So basically, we are outmatched in every way. In direct combat, yes, but they think in straight lines. They follow tactics that have worked for thousands of years. They do not adapt quickly to unexpected situations. Daewon smiled slightly. Good, because unexpected is what humans do best. They walked in silence for a while. The forest was beautiful under its coat of snow. Daewon found himself wondering how many other aliens had walked on Earth without anyone knowing. The thought was strange and uncomfortable. Tell me about other humans in space, he said finally. You mentioned someone earlier, an admiral with a Korean name. Yuna glanced at him. Your governments have known about us for 15 years. They agreed to keep it secret while humanity was prepared for contact. Some humans volunteered to join the Confederation, to learn, to help build bridges. Admiral Tae-min was one of the first. And nobody else knows? No regular people? A few thousand humans know. Scientists, military leaders. People who could help prepare Earth for what is coming. But the general population does not know yet. First contact is planned for next year. A proper introduction. But the Dominion is trying to prevent that. Daewon felt angry again. People deserve to know the truth. Perhaps. But imagine if everyone learned tomorrow that aliens exist and some want to destroy Earth. What would happen? Daewon thought about it. Panic. Chaos. People would demand action without understanding the situation. It would be bad. Yes, so the secret was kept. For safety. But also because humanity was not ready. You need to reach the stars yourselves first, to prove you can do it. Otherwise, you would always wonder if you only succeeded because aliens helped you. That made sense in a strange way. Day One was about to respond when Una suddenly held up her hand. She pointed ahead. Through the trees, something metallic glinted in the sunlight. They approached carefully. A large piece of the ship had crashed into a clearing. It was half buried in snow, but still recognizable as technology. The metal was dark and covered in strange symbols. Part of it was still smoking slightly. That is a storage compartment, Una said. There might be supplies inside, and possibly part of the data core. Day One scanned the area. The clearing was too open. They would be exposed while they worked. Make it quick. I will keep watch. Una moved to the wreckage and started working on an access panel. Day One positioned himself at the edge of the clearing where he could see in all directions. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No small animals. Something was wrong. Una, he said quietly. We need to hurry. Almost there, she replied. The panel opened and she reached inside. That was when Day One saw it. A small flying device about the size of his hand, moving between the trees. A drone. It had not spotted them yet, but it was searching the area systematically. Drone, he whispered sharply. 10 o'clock. We need to leave now. Una pulled something from the compartment and closed the panel quickly. They moved back into the forest just as the drone entered the clearing. Day One led them deeper into the trees, moving fast but trying to stay quiet. Behind them, he heard the drone's motors change pitch. It had found the wreckage, which meant it would start searching the surrounding area. And where there were drones, there were soldiers. They ran for 10 minutes before Day One found what he was looking for. A small cave hidden behind fallen rocks. They squeezed inside and pressed themselves against the back wall. Through the entrance, they could see the forest, but anything outside would have trouble seeing them. Did we get what we needed? Day One asked, breathing hard. Una opened the device she had grabbed. It looked like a metal box covered in alien writing. This is a backup power cell. I can use it to boost my equipment. But the data core is not here. We need to keep searching. Those drones will make it harder. Yes, the Dominion knows I am in this area now. They will send soldiers. Day One thought quickly. Can you track how many drones are out there? Una checked her wrist device. I am detecting 3 within a kilometer. They are working in a search pattern. Then we use that. They are searching methodically, which means they are predictable. We move in the gaps between their search paths. That will slow us down, but it will keep us alive. They waited in the cave for 30 minutes, watching the drones move through the forest. Day One studied their pattern carefully. They were thorough, but not creative. They checked everywhere, but in an organized way. He could work with that dot. When the nearest drone moved away, they left the cave and continued northeast. Una's device led them toward another piece of the ship. This one was smaller, lodged high in a tree. The data core could be inside that, Una said. But I cannot reach it from here. Day One studied the tree. It was old and thick with branches. I can climb it. Tell me what I am looking for. A cylinder about this size. She held her hands apart to show the length. It will be warm and glowing blue. Day One handed her his rifle and started climbing. The tree was easier than it looked with good branches for handholds. He reached the wreckage and carefully searched through the twisted metal. There were various components he did not recognize. Then he saw it. A cylinder exactly as Una described, wedged between 2 pieces of whole dot. He was reaching for it when he heard voices. Not human voices. Speaking in a harsh, clicking language. Day One froze and looked down. Through the branches, He could see 3 figures moving through the forest below. They were huge, maybe 7 feet tall, wearing dark armor. They carried weapons that looked like nothing Day One had ever seen. The Dominion soldiers. They were searching the area methodically, and they were heading right toward where Yuna was hiding. Day One looked down at her. She had seen them too. She was pressed against the base of the tree, trying to stay out of sight. But if the soldiers came any closer, they would spot her. One of the soldiers stopped and studied the ground. It had found their tracks in the snow. It said something in its language, and the others moved toward their position. They would be on top of Yuna in seconds. Day One made a split-second decision. He grabbed a large piece of loose wreckage and threw it hard in the opposite direction. It crashed through branches and hit the ground with a loud noise. The soldiers spun toward the sound and moved to investigate, but one of them was smart. It looked up. Its eyes locked with Day One's. The soldier raised its weapon and fired. A beam of bright energy tore through the air where Day One had been a second before. He had already dropped, sliding down the tree trunk faster than he should have. Branches tore at his clothes, but he kept moving. He hit the ground hard and rolled. Yuna grabbed his arm, and they ran. Behind them, the soldiers gave chase. Day One could hear their heavy footsteps crashing through the undergrowth. They were fast. Too fast. This way, Day One gasped, leading them toward a rocky area he knew. The terrain there was difficult. Lots of loose stones and sudden drops. Dangerous for anyone who did not know it well. An energy beam hit a tree next to his head, and the wood exploded into flames. They were shooting to kill now. Day One pushed himself harder. Yuna kept pace, her alien physiology letting her move despite her injuries. They reached the rocks, and Day One led them through a narrow gap between 2 boulders. It was barely wide enough for a human. The larger Dominion soldiers would have trouble following. He hoped. They emerged on the other side and kept running. Behind them, he heard angry clicking sounds. The soldiers were having trouble with the gap, but they would find another way around soon. "We need to lose them," Yuna said. Day One looked around desperately. Then he saw it. A frozen stream bed that cut through the rocks. "Follow me." They slid down into the stream bed and followed it for several hundred meters. The ice was slippery, but it left no tracks. When they reached a point where the stream went under a rock formation, Day One pulled Yuna into the small space. They pressed themselves into the shadows and waited. Day One's heart pounded so hard, he thought it might give them away. Minutes passed. Then they heard the soldiers moving above them, searching. The clicking language sounded frustrated. After what felt like forever, the sounds moved away. They waited another 10 minutes before moving. When they finally emerged, the sun was starting to set. They were both shaking from cold and adrenaline. "Did you get it?" Yuna asked quietly. "The cylinder?" Day One reached into his jacket and pulled it out. The data core glowed softly in his hand. "Let us get back to the cabin. We need to figure out how to use this thing." As they started the long walk back, Day One realized something important. They had survived their first encounter with the Dominion. They were outmatched and outgunned, but they had survived by being unpredictable, by using the terrain, by adapting. Maybe Yuna was right. Maybe humans did have something special, something that gave them a chance against impossible odds. He looked at the data core in his hand and hoped that would be enough. They reached the cabin after dark. Day One immediately started checking their defenses while Yuna examined the data core. She placed it on the workbench and connected it to her wrist device. Her face fell when she saw the readings. "It is damaged," she said quietly. "The crash corrupted some of the data. I can repair it, but I need time and the right equipment." "What kind of equipment?" Yuna showed him a list on her device. Most of it looked impossible to find. Advanced alien technology that did not exist on Earth, but some items looked familiar. Power sources, circuits, basic components. I can work with this, they once said, studying the list. Not exactly what you need, but close enough. Humans are good at making things work with what we have. He went to his workshop area and started pulling out equipment. Old computers, radio parts, circuit boards from broken electronics, things he had collected over the years for various projects. To Yuna, it probably looked like junk. But Day One saw potential. Explain what each component needs to do, he said. I will find a way to make it happen. For the next several hours, they worked together. Yuna explained the alien technology in simple terms. Day One translated that into human engineering. He built adapters and connectors from scratch. He rewired circuits to handle power loads they were never designed for. He created interfaces between Earth technology and alien systems using nothing but creativity and determination. Yuna watched him work with growing amazement. You should not be able to do this. The technology gap is too large. You are thinking like an engineer, Day One said, soldering a connection. You want the right parts in the right places. I am thinking like a survivor. I want anything that works, even if it is ugly. This is the human factor. Maybe, or maybe this is just what happens when you give a problem to someone too stubborn to admit it is impossible. By midnight, they had built a working repair station. It looked ridiculous. Alien components wired to car batteries. Computer parts held together with duct tape. But when Day One powered it on, everything worked. The data core connected and began the repair process. 12 hours, Yuna said, reading the progress. It needs 12 hours to restore the corrupted data. Then we defend this place for 12 hours, Day One said. After that, you can transmit to your fleet? Yes, but the transmission will create a strong signal. Every Dominion ship in this system will detect it immediately. How quickly can they respond? Minutes. Maybe less. They will target this location with orbital weapons. The entire area will be destroyed. Day One looked around the cabin. His grandfather had built this place with his own hands. So many memories here. Then we make sure the transmission goes through before they can stop it. After that, it does not matter what happens to us. Earth will have a chance. Yuna met his eyes. You understand this might be a one-way mission. I understand, but my planet is worth dying for. They spent the next hours preparing. Day One knew the Dominion soldiers would find them eventually. The drones had seen them in this area. It was only a matter of time. So he prepared the cabin as a fortress. He placed his grandfather's hunting traps around the perimeter. Simple but effective against anyone not expecting them. He created improvised explosive devices from fertilizer and fuel. Not powerful, but enough to surprise and slow down attackers. He established fallback positions and escape routes. Yuna contributed what she could. She had a small sidearm that had survived the crash. She set it to maximum power and showed Day One how to use it. She also had some equipment that could detect approaching enemies. Dawn came, and with it, the attack. Yuna's sensors detected them first. 3 Dominion soldiers approaching from different directions. Smart. They were coordinating their assault. Here we go, Day One said, checking his rifle. Stay inside and protect the data core. I will keep them busy. You cannot fight them alone. Watch me. The first soldier came from the east. Day One was waiting behind the woodpile with a clear line of sight. When the soldier stepped onto the path, it triggered one of the traps. An explosion of fire and metal. The soldier was thrown back, its armor cracked but not broken. Before it could recover, Day One fired 3 shots from his rifle. The bullets did not penetrate the armor, but they forced the soldier to take cover. The second soldier tried to flank from the north, but Day One had prepared for that. He had rigged the shed with explosives. When the soldier approached to use it as cover, Day One triggered the charge remotely. The shed exploded spectacularly. The soldier survived, but was disoriented. The third soldier was smarter. It stayed back and used its energy weapon to provide covering fire. Beams of burning energy tore through the cabin's walls. Wood and plaster exploded. Day One had to stay low and keep moving. "They are trying to pin me down," he called to Yuna. "They will rush the cabin next." "I can help," Yuna said. She appeared at the window with her sidearm and fired at the third soldier. Her aim was perfect. The energy bolt hit the soldier's weapon and destroyed it. The soldier retreated into the forest dot, but now the other two were recovering. They moved toward the cabin more carefully. Day One realized his traps and tricks had bought them time, but not enough. These soldiers were professionals. They learned quickly. "How long until the data core is ready?" He asked. 10 more hours." 10 hours. Day One knew they could not hold the cabin that long in a siege. He needed to change the situation. "I have an idea, but you are not going to like it. Tell me." "I draw them away. Lead them on a chase through the mountains. You stay here and protect the data core. When it is ready, you transmit no matter what. That is suicide. They will kill you. Maybe, but it is the only way to keep them away from the cabin long enough." He grabbed his pack and loaded it with supplies. "Besides, I grew up in these mountains. I know places they cannot follow." Yuna grabbed his arm. "There must be another way." "There is not. You know it, and I know it." He looked at her seriously. "You came to Earth to save us. Let me return the favor. This is my home, my planet. I am not going to let them take it without a fight." Before she could argue more, Day One ran out the back door. He fired several shots at the soldiers to get their attention, and then sprinted toward the forest. Behind him, he heard the clicking language as the soldiers communicated. Then heavy footsteps as they gave chase. Good. They had taken the bait. Day One ran hard, leading them northeast toward the most difficult terrain in the area. He used every trick he knew. He doubled back on his trail. He crossed streams to hide his scent. He climbed where they could not easily follow. But the soldiers were relentless, and they were faster than him. Got an energy beam, hit a tree next to him. He dove for cover and returned fire. His bullets did little damage, but they forced the soldiers to be cautious. That was all he needed. Small delays adding up to larger ones. He led them higher into the mountains. The air grew thinner. The terrain became rocky and dangerous. Day One's lungs burned, and his legs ached, but he kept moving. Behind him, he could hear the soldiers struggling with the altitude and the terrain. They were strong, but they had evolved on a different world. Earth's environment was foreign to them. That gave Day One an advantage. A small one, but he would take anything. He reached a ravine he remembered from his childhood. It was narrow, with loose rocks on both sides. Dangerous, but possible if you knew where to step. He crossed carefully and climbed up the far side. When he reached the top, he stopped and looked back. The soldiers had reached the ravine. The lead one stepped onto the loose rocks. Day One grabbed a large stone and threw it down the slope. It triggered a small avalanche. Rocks and snow cascaded down. The soldier tried to jump back, but was caught by the slide. It was buried up to its waist in debris. The other two soldiers rushed to help their companion. While they were distracted, Day One ran. He had bought himself time. Maybe another hour. Maybe less. He found shelter in a small cave and collapsed. His body was screaming for rest, but he could not stop. He checked his watch. 8 more hours until the data core was ready. 8 hours to keep these soldiers away from the cabin and away from Una. Could he do it? Could one human really hold off trained alien warriors for that long? Logic said no. Training said no. Experience said no. But something deep inside Day One said yes. Not because he was strong enough or smart enough, but because he was stubborn enough. Because giving up was not in his nature. Because Earth was counting on him, even if nobody knew it. He stood up, ignoring his body's protests. Through the cave entrance, he could see the mountains stretching endlessly. Beautiful and harsh. Home. Come on, then, he muttered to himself. Let us see how long a human can last. He left the cave and continued moving. The hunt was not over. Not by a long way. But Day One was still alive. Still fighting. And as long as he was, Earth had a chance. Behind him in the distance, he heard the clicking language of the Dominion soldiers. They had freed their companion and were on his trail again. Day One smiled grimly. Good. The longer they chased him, the longer Una had to complete her mission. He ran into the mountains as the sun climbed higher in the sky. 8 hours to go. He could do this. He had to do this. For Earth. For humanity. For the future among the stars that his species deserved. Day One ran on, and the mountains swallowed him up. 6 hours. Day One had been running for 6 hours. His legs felt like lead. His lungs burned with every breath. Blood from a dozen small cuts covered his hands and face. But he was still moving. Still leading the Dominion soldiers away from the cabin. He had used everything he could think of. He set fires to create smoke and confusion. He used his radio to broadcast false signals from different locations. He even rigged his phone to play music remotely, making the soldiers think he was somewhere he was not. Every trick bought him a few more minutes, but the soldiers were adapting. They had stopped falling for his traps. They moved more cautiously now, and they had called for support. Day One had seen 2 more drones arrive in the last hour. The net was closing. He checked his watch. 2 hours left. Just 2 more hours and Una would be able to transmit. Then it would not matter if they caught him. The data would be sent, and Earth would have its warning. Day One was climbing a steep slope when he heard something that made his blood run cold. The clicking language was coming from above him. They had predicted his route and gotten ahead of him. He was trapped between the soldiers behind him and whoever was waiting above. He looked around desperately. To his left was a cliff face. To his right was dense forest. No good options. Then he saw it. A narrow ledge that ran along the cliff face, barely wide enough to walk on. It would take him around the soldiers above and give him a chance to escape. It was also incredibly dangerous. One wrong step, and he would fall 30 meters onto rocks. But he was out of choices. Day One stepped onto the ledge and started moving. He kept his back pressed against the cliff and moved sideways. Do not look down. Just focus on the next step. The wind pulled at him and snow made the ledge slippery. His heart pounded, but his hands stayed steady. He was halfway across when a soldier appeared at the far end of the ledge. It was the leader of the group. The one Day One had noticed was smarter than the others. It raised its energy weapon. Day One pulled out Una's sidearm and fired. The energy bolt hit the soldier in the shoulder. It was not a killing shot, but it made the soldier step back. That gave Day One time to reach the end of the ledge and roll into cover behind some rocks. But now the soldier was angry. It charged at him with a speed that should not have been possible for something so large. Day One barely dodged the first strike. The soldier's fist hit the rock where his head had been and cracked the stone. They fought hand to hand in the snow. Every blow from the soldier felt like getting hit by a truck. Day one's training helped him avoid the worst of it, but he could not keep it up. He was too tired, too hurt. Too human. The soldier grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Its grip was like iron. Day one struggled, but could not break free. Black spots danced in his vision. This was it. He was going to die here. Then he remembered the avalanche, the loose snow, the unstable terrain. With his last strength, Day one pulled a flare from his belt and ignited it right in the soldier's face. The bright light and heat made the soldier drop him. Day one fell to the snow, gasping for air. The soldier stumbled back, temporarily blinded. Day one did not hesitate. He threw the flare at the snowbank above them, and then dove for cover. The heat from the flare was enough. The snow began to slide, first slowly, then faster. An avalanche roared down the slope. The soldier saw it coming, but had nowhere to go. The snow caught it and carried it down the mountain. Day one held onto a tree and watched as tons of snow thundered past him. When it finally stopped, the soldier was buried somewhere below. Day one collapsed in the snow. He had won, but at what cost? He could barely move. His body was shutting down from exhaustion. He checked his watch with numb fingers. 1 hour left. Just one more hour, but he heard the others coming. The avalanche had not stopped them. If anything, it had made them more determined. They were close now. Too close. Day one tried to stand, but his legs would not support him. This was it then. He had bought Yuna enough time. Almost enough. He had done everything he could. He just hoped it was enough. A shadow fell over him. One of the soldiers stood there, energy weapon pointed at his head. The soldier spoke in its clicking language. The translator on Day one's borrowed wrist device converted it to Korean. You fought well, human. Better than we expected. But it ends now. Tell me where the other one is hiding. Day one looked up at the soldier. He was beaten, exhausted, probably about to die. But he still managed to smile. I will tell you where to go, but you will not like the answer. The soldier aimed its weapon, defiant to the end. This is the human factor? Stupidity dressed up as courage. No, said a new voice. This is humanity refusing to quit even when we should. The soldier spun around. A ship was descending from the sky. Not a Dominion ship. It was sleek and beautiful, with the symbols of the Confederation on its hull. Weapon ports opened and energy cannons locked onto the soldiers below. Stand down or be destroyed, the voice from the ship commanded. It spoke in the clicking language, but the translator let Day one understand. The data transmission is complete. Your mission has failed. The Dominion fleet is already engaging our forces and losing. The soldiers looked at each other. Then they raised their weapons toward the ship. It was a pointless gesture of defiance. The ship's weapons fired. Precise shots that disabled the soldiers without killing them. They collapsed in the snow, their armor smoking. The ship landed and a ramp extended. Yuna appeared at the top, uninjured and smiling. Behind her was a tall man in a Confederation uniform. His face was human and distinctly Korean. Admiral Tae-min, Day one said weakly. That is correct, the Admiral said, walking down to help Day one to his feet. Though we have never met, I know who you are now. The human who saved his planet. Did the transmission work? Perfectly. The Confederation fleet used your data to ambush the Dominion forces. They are retreating as we speak. Earth is safe. Day one felt relief wash over him. It worked. They had actually done it. He looked at Yuna. You were supposed to stay at the cabin. The transmission completed early, she said. Good thing, too. You needed help. I had it under control. You were about to be killed. That is just details. Admiral Tae-min laughed. Yes, this is definitely a human. Come, we need to get you both medical attention. They helped Day One onto the ship. As they lifted off, he looked down at the mountains below. His grandfather's cabin was a small speck in the distance. So much had happened there in just a few days. His entire world had changed. The ship climbed higher, and Earth came into view, beautiful and blue against the darkness of space. Somewhere up here, human ships would soon be flying, exploring, meeting other species as equals. What happens now? Day One asked. Admiral Taman sat next to him. Now you have choices to make. We can return you to Earth with your memories intact. You would be part of the preparation effort for first contact. Or you can come with us. Help prepare other humans for what is coming. Show them what humanity is capable of. And first contact still happens? You still tell everyone about aliens? Yes, in 6 months. Your governments have agreed. Humanity deserves to know the truth. To know they are not alone. And to know they have already proven themselves worthy of joining the greater galactic community. Day One looked at Yuna. She had risked everything for his planet. For people she did not know. What will you do? I have been promoted to liaison officer, she said. I will be part of the first contact team. If you want, we could work together. Day One thought about his life before this. His software projects. His quiet cabin. It all seemed so small now. He had seen what was possible. What humanity could become. And he wanted to be part of that. I will come with you, he said. At least for a while. Earth has people who can handle the politics. But maybe I can help show other humans that we are ready for this. That we can handle the impossible. By being stubborn and refusing to give up? Yuna asked with a smile. Exactly. It is what we do best. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, and Earth fell away behind them. Day One watched his home planet disappear and felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear, excitement, hope. Somewhere on Earth, people were going about their normal lives. Working, loving, fighting, living. They had no idea how close they had come to destruction. How one man and one alien had saved them all. But they would know soon. In 6 months, the truth would come out. Humans would learn they were not alone. That the galaxy was full of life and wonder and danger. And that humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through strength or technology, but through determination and creativity. The human factor. That was what made them special. That refusal to accept defeat. That ability to adapt and overcome. It was not logical. It was not efficient. But it worked. Day One leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. He was exhausted, but content. He had done his part. Now it was up to the rest of humanity to do theirs. 5 months later, Day One stood in a conference room full of human leaders. Presidents, scientists, military commanders. People who would help guide humanity through first contact. He had spent the time learning everything he could about the Confederation and the galaxy beyond Earth. Now he was sharing that knowledge. The most important thing to understand, he told them, is that we are not joining as children to be protected. We are joining as partners, as equals. Yes, other species have technology, we do not. They have experience we lack. But we bring something they need. Something unique. What is that? One of the presidents asked. Day One smiled. We bring humanity. Our refusal to quit. Our ability to solve impossible problems with determination and creativity. They call it the human factor. I call it being too stubborn to know when we are beaten. The room laughed, but it was a laugh of understanding, of recognition. In a few weeks, everyone will know the truth, Day One continued. There will be fear, confusion, questions, But there will also be excitement, wonder, hope, because humanity is about to take its place among the stars. Not because we are the strongest or the smartest, but because we are human. And that is enough. The meeting ended, and Day One walked outside. Yuna was waiting for him. Together they looked up at the night sky. Ready? She asked, for what? Tomorrow we go public. Full disclosure. The beginning of a new era for your species. Day One thought about it. About everything that had happened. About the impossible things he had done. About the future waiting for his people. Ready or not, he said, humanity is going to make one hell of an impression. And somewhere above them, among the stars, the galaxy waited to meet the newest members of the Confederation. The humans. The stubborn ones. The creative ones. The ones who refused to quit. The ones who had earned their place, not through power, but through spirit. The galaxy would never be quite the same again.